Hello and welcome to the second episode of this new series we're doing on 30-minute reviews called the Backlog Files, or Back Catalog Files. I gotta come up with a concrete name for this. I'm Adam, and we're here to talk about Race the Sun, which is a reasonably old game that, old. I mean, it's almost 10 years old at this point, because I remember playing it on the PS3 and the PS4 back in college. And it's a moderately fun game that is definitely worth a play if you've never played it before. So the general concept is you've probably played Cube Runner at some point in the past, especially if you're my age. That was a big deal, like in high school, where it's like Cube Runner, you play as this little airplane, you got to go around, you got to dodge stuff, and you got to get as far as you can without dying. This takes that kind of endless runner thing with a little ship and kind of cranks it up past what you would expect in Cube Runner, where it's endless, it can go out in any direction, and you will just keep going until the point at which you hit something and die, or run out of power because the sun is set because your ship is solar powered. And it's a pretty fun game in that regard. Now, it's the kind of thing where it's like you watch it and you play it, and it's like it doesn't seem like a lot. The art style is pretty cool, and I think one of the things is it runs so smoothly that kind of makes it more fun than if it ran jankily. Um, the Some of the missions can get a little annoying, especially considering how the worlds are randomized, to the point where sometimes you can feel like, and this is me a lot, but you can feel like you're getting to a generation of the world which regenerates every day. But if the one that you generate into on that day, save a mission, get through like one of the earlier or midway through, I would say, midway through missions that's a little bit difficult to get through. It's worth three um, experience points, which you need five to level up. But it's worth three experience points, but it's get through two regions only going left, and it is very difficult to do that sometimes, especially with the caliber of traps and the layout of things, especially if you take into consideration cloud cover and stuff like that. Um, the achievements on the PlayStation are fun and don't feel cheap, which is a nice thing to do with them, and it makes it a little bit more. It adds something to the game. The trophies do have a sense of difficulty to the point where you feel accomplished when you do it. It doesn't feel cheap difficult, and I think that the wider, there are no achievements in the GOG version or GOG or however you pronounce that. But yeah, when you take into consideration everything that goes into what this game is, it's pretty fun. And the on the PC, I don't remember if it's on the PlayStation version. I haven't played the PlayStation version in a while. But on the PC version, there is user generated content, and I think that is great. You can make your own levels. That's really fun. And it makes it a pretty good investment. Now, it's relatively cheap too. You can pick it up for $10. And I would say it's worth the $10. It's a relatively cheap game that would be interesting to see. I'm surprised they haven't ported it to the Switch yet, to be completely honest, because it's the kind of game like Snaky Bus or something like that, where it feels kind of like it would operate well on the Nintendo Switch, especially if they implemented gyro controls, which could be interesting. But for how it controls now and how it plays, I mean, your PC doesn't have to be a beast to play it. It's pretty, pretty simple, and I think it did make me a fan of what this studio can do over at Flippfly, I think it is. And one of the things I really love about what Flippfly does is looking at some of their other games in their catalog is they take things that you would think are just general kind of mobile standbys. Like there's another one they have called what was it, Evergarden, where it is it's a general kind of what's it called like what's what I'm looking for here? Like it's a match game, like a merge game, and it's like, oh, that is, they've done something with it, and it looks cool, and it's got that same satisfying gameplay loop without the feeling that you have to pay money or wait or anything like that, which also will add to it. And I think that I'm interested to see what the studio comes up with next. I want to see where they go from here and what other things that they come up with in the future in terms of kind of elevating the style of gameplay. Um, Maybe I'll reach out to them and we'll do a follow up about it to see if there's ever any interest in porting it to the Switch. But I would be interested to see this game ported to the Switch. Uh, Excuse me. Yeah, because it went to the Wii U as well. Maybe I'll reach out to them. I'll contact someone at Flippfly and be like, "Hey, are you guys gonna move this to the Switch at any point in the future? Because this game's great, and I think it deserves its chance." And I don't know if I ever talked about it on here, but like for me, the Switch is a great independent console. If you like indie games, I think the Switch is a good game for you. You have to do some vetting, um, but the Switch is a great console for independent games because when you buy a Nintendo console, you're not buying it for power. And I think that this has been the case for a long time, where your Nintendo games, your Switch is never going to be able to run Grand Theft Auto. I, I, I mean, apparently they signed this 10-year deal with Microsoft, and allegedly they're going to be bringing in like Call of Duty. I don't know how that's going to run on a Switch. I mean, my Switch can barely run Pokemon, and it's going to somehow run um, what was it? It's gonna somehow run Call of Duty. I don't buy that unless they're gonna do an alternate version of Call of Duty, or they're gonna port it over like Finest Hour and then put in an online thing just for Switch users. Um, I don't know how that's gonna work, but when I play my Switch, I'm playing it for independent games, cheap independent games that do that are interesting. Like, I mean, one of my most played games on there is, Snaky Bus, which is just, it's Snake, but you're a bus driver. Um, I've played, like, Unpacking, which found a huge audience on the Switch. We found, what was the other one that was really big? Stardew Valley had a huge audience on the Switch, which is another one that's really fun. But all these games are kind of like smaller independent pieces, and I'm surprised that this game hasn't gone there yet. It'll be interesting. I'll reach out and I'll update next week if we hear back from them. I'd be interested to know if they have any plan to bring it to the Switch. So our next episode is going to be Grow Home. I think it was Ubisoft who put this game out, and I remember playing and instantly falling in love, and I wanted the opportunity to replay it. So we'll do that here, and we'll talk about it next week, and see how well it holds up. And until then, have a great rest of your week.